Welcome to Seat Time, everybody, the off-road show that brings you all the results, news, and online shenanigans that make being online a good time. We'd like to say thank you to Fly Racing for their support of Seat Time. Please go check them out at flyracing.com. Welcome to Seat Time, everybody. What you're looking at here is episode 77. I'm back on the couch this weekend. I'm alone. Here on my couch, personally in Texas. I do have a few guests that are joining us from the internet, if you will, in their respective cities and states. But the good thing is that we could Skype, we could Google Hangout, we could do all kinds of fun, nasty things that we shouldn't be able to do, but we can because of the internet. So that's fantastic. But also, thankfully, because of the internet, we have a website. It is seattime.co. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/seattime, and we're on Twitter, twitter.com. It's like at seattime_co, all those fun things. You can find us. If you were like, oh my gosh, what kind of pint glass is that he's drinking out of? Seat Time pint glass, 20 ounces of absolute pure awesome. So you can have 16 ounces of beer, 4 ounces a head. Absolutely amazing. bigcartel.seattime.co, com actually, but that's confusing. So a lot has been going on. 2013 has really started to kick off in the fact that we just had a really big series with the GNCC startup this past weekend. We had J-Day going off in Florida, all kinds of fun stuff. So we wanted to get some perspective from some guys from different sides of the fence. So we have Keith Obermeyer, who obviously is Obermeyer, Suzuki, and Yamaha. And he, helps out with the Obermeyer Yamaha Range Racing. He's going to correct me on it when I start getting it really wrong. Team. And then, of course, Mr. Nate Kanney from the Northeast as well, who's done a J-Day and done really well. I think he won one of the original ones back in the day. And then he's also won a couple GNCCs, X-Pro there, XC2 and XC1. So it's going to be absolutely amazing to get their feedback on everything that happened today. I was really ecstatic to be able to watch the live racing. So let's start with Kanney. What up? Tell us about your weekend and what's been going on in your life.
I actually had a pretty good weekend. Spring is sort of starting to break here in New York, so that's really nice. It's been a long winter, as you can imagine. It's not like what you get down there. So, here in New York, the winter is really inconsistent, where it's like you get snow and then you can't do anything other than winter sports for a week, and then it melts away, and then you can sort of get back on your mountain bike and you can do stuff, and then all of a sudden it'll snow again just when you get comfortable. So now that's starting to break, which is really nice. And I got a job actually Sunday night crashing a motorcycle in New York City on a film set. So I did that Sunday night.
As like a stunt rider?
Yep, I got a job as a stunt man in the stunt crew.
That's
crashing
awesome.
Crashing a street bike on Park Avenue. So I did that Sunday night, and then yesterday I was doing everything associated with my job as a independent rep, and then today I sort of plan to work from my office and be at my computer to sort of watch the race go down today. So that's sort of typical for me. But apart from today, I just really wanted to be at my computer, and even though I couldn't be at the race, I really was pretty interested in seeing how all the guys did and following all my friends and old peers. So
yeah. Now, I bet that was really cool for you, just because, you have been always at the races, racing, and then there was one of the, Ohio, I believe, last year, Powerline Park, where you actually had a mechanical, but then you got to go and do the webcast, with the gentleman that was doing the webcast there. You got in the trailer. You did a really good job, and that's when I figured we need to have that dude on some Seat Time episodes, because, whoa, he's funny. Like, whoa.
Well, I appreciate that. I enjoyed doing the webcast, but I mean that's sort of tough work, and this is a better atmosphere actually, and when you do those live shows of the race, you sort of have to cater to a broad audience, and here it's like we're all sitting here with a beer and we're talking about what happened at the race, and there's sort of wider bounds, so it's a lot more enjoyable, and that's nice.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Mr. Obermeyer, if you will, I might call you Keith. I might call you Obi. I don't really know. It's going to get crazy.
Whatever you want to call me. That's fine. I'll respond to anything.
I like it. That could get weird. It is only a Tuesday night though. That's all right. Well, okay. Now you've been involved with the, not just your shop, Obermeyer Yamaha Suzuki shop, but then through you being involved with your shop, you're then involved with, the range riding Obermeyer Yamaha off-road Viking team that's got a bazillion names. But besides all that, you could clean up the stuff that I screwed up for me, one. And two, give us a little bit of background on how you kind of actually got into the shop and how you own that, and then as well got involved with the GNCC team, because I think that's pretty neat.
Well, I think when you get into the motorsports business, unless you're just looking for something to do, you're an enthusiast. I mean, it's something you've ridden and you love it and you're passionate about it and you want to make a living in the motorsports industry. And obviously, I'm not as fast as Kanney, so I had to find another way to do it.
Right.
If somebody would pay me to crash motorcycles, then I'd be very wealthy. But I can do that pretty well. But no, it's been almost 9.5 years. We started out single line Yamaha dealer in little old Jasper, Indiana. I've always raced and enjoyed it. Got into the business. Started helping some guys out locally. Got to know some people. Hooked up with Jason Raines. Did some stuff with him. Basically was talking to him on the phone 2 years ago, I guess it was, and doing kind of like what we're doing, sitting around talking, well, who's going where, who's riding what, and that's when Charlie had no ride, Charlie Mullins, and was able to put together a deal for Charlie with Randy Hawkins at Ampro. We had a really good year that year with the Enduro Series, and then runner-up in the GNCC. So that kind of put us on the map, and we've kind of evolved from there with helping out Ashburn and a few other riders here and there. We just basically got in at the right time where riders were needing more help at a higher level. The industry just wasn't supporting itself within GNCC racing, and it was a little easier for a dealership to get involved and help out. So that's kind of where we've been. Since then, we've taken on Suzuki, and then 2 months ago we took on Honda. Moved into a new building, so now we're Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki. We've been doing. My winter's been consumed with renovations and building stuff. So. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we scaled back the race team a little bit. We had a whole lot of amateurs last year.
Yeah.
We kind of scaled back, and mainly just doing XC2 guys, just being that stepping stone, where it's a little easier to help a guy out or a couple of guys out versus XC1. It takes a lot of resources to do that. So it's kind of where we've been, and we've had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, is that something that you see that could possibly be kind of like, say, like a Geico Honda team is in Supercross, where that you could put a lot of focus there and a lot of money into that program, but kind of knowing that you're just going to you're going to kind of help grow these guys, as you were saying, or are you going to try to model it a little bit differently?
It's a little different just for the resources and the exposure. I mean, when we're talking off-road racing, it's not near the publicity that you would get to Supercross.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
And teaming up with Jason, I was teamed up with Randy. He's a great guy, and then Jason and I got to kicking it around. Then we got Daniel Engel involved with Off-Road Viking, so it's Obermeyer, Yamaha, Raines Riding University, and OffRoadViking.com.
Right.
So we've kind of got three separate entities going on there, but with Jason's experience in the past, it's been a little easier for us to break into some of the sponsors with his history. And then with the purchasing power of our dealership, we've been able to kind of cross that up a little bit and double up on it. If you're sponsoring us, we're going to be carrying your products in the store. We're going to be pushing it, promoting it, and it's kind of worked really good for those who've stepped up and helped us out, as well as it's helped out our riders. So
yeah. So it sounds like since you've got you started with Yamaha, then added Suzuki, and then went to Honda, that it's mainly mainly Japanese manufacturers. Has there been any need, desire, or want, or just complete no need to do any form of KTM or other European manufacturers?
Well, that not really. Only because the area where I live is represented with dealers now.
Right.
So, and it's pretty full over there. I mean, KTM has a lot on their plate, and they're certainly putting the budget towards it. And that's all they do. They make off-road motorcycles. They don't make, or really ATVs, scooters, side-by-sides, none of that other stuff. So it's kind of a focus for them, where the Japanese manufacturers really have a more broad product offering. So it's a little bit different. Not really something I'm looking to go towards. We did gas in 06 and 07. There were some transitions going on there. It's a neat motorcycle, but at some point you put your business face on and you have to have something that helps pay the bills more than it is fun. I mean, and that's what the gas thing was. It was like, this is so cool, it's fun, but it needs to make sense too.
Right. Okay. Kanney, with a lot of the stuff that he's saying, you're now kind of in a role as an individual rep for a company that you could possibly wind up getting involved with a race team. I don't know if you particularly in the role you're at now, but I think something like this could maybe lead you to that. What do you think about the way that Obermeyer Yamaha is involved in, say, like just going to maybe an XC2 program like this and then other small kind of like satellite-esque teams?
I mean, I think that it's the easiest and simplest way to get involved in racing with XC2. Like he said, I mean, the cost to get an XC1 guy, that's going to be competitive and relevant is just kind of too much.
Right.
And then even the burden is a little bit more, where I think a lot of the XC2 guys are, even if the cost is a lot, at least they're not going to be a burden because they're guys that have never really had it that good anywhere else in the first place. So it's not like they're going to be, demanding a lot. They're going to be pretty gracious for every extra thing they get. But with that being said, I will say that, I'm not a real big fan of the XT2 class. And, I think that if there were no XC2 class and the XC1 absorbed all the capable riders, we'd have a 30 to 40 rider deep front line, where now you would have a depth of talent that not just the top 5 guys were getting respect, but the guys that were finishing in the top 20 were going to get more credibility, where, now you get a guy who gets 15th overall, but that means he got 6th in the lights class, so it's not necessarily, something that they can feel really proud of, because the sponsors of the manufacturers now are just going for the wins in one class or the other, but they're not necessarily rewarding the young kids who are working their way up and getting a 15th overall.
Right. Well, it sounds like that might be, what the range riding Obermeyer team is actually wanting to do is to give that recognition and maybe give some of that support to those XC2 riders specifically. Now, granted, it would probably financially would be easier to run a team that just has XC2 riders too, but I think that that's all part of like a business model as well. When you really get into the fact that you're like, okay, this is our money, we can only put this much into it. What's the best way for us to support the scene and for us to support riders, and then as well, get a little bit out of it. I've never run a team, so I don't know how much you get out of it. But I'm thinking off-road, you're doing it more like Keith said, for the enthusiastic aspect of it than you would be trying to make an extra $1 or $2.
Yeah, I mean, if I were in his shoes, I would be doing the same thing. It's just it's personal belief of mine that the sport would be better off. But as long as it is the way it is, then you adapt to it and you make it. If you're a sponsor or an investor or just a supporter or whatever you may be, then you make the best of it the way it is. And I've got the Handguard company now going, and if we were growing fast enough that we were going to invest, we would. I personally would go and support the XC1 guys that I see taking the step and making the move, but that's because that suits our company. But if I were a dealer and now all of a sudden, in order to support a rider as a dealer, it's a major commitment with bikes and parts and things. That's a big deal.
Right.
And I certainly would cater to the XC2 guys because of that.
Huh. Okay, yeah, and that's interesting. I've never run a team. I've barely ever really raced for anybody. I've just done my own racing, had fun with it, and that's all the need I've had. So thinking about it in those aspects is a little bit different, and I know you guys being on the business side of it, and then as well, Kanney being on the actual racing side of it, you guys have some interesting knowledge. So all good points. I like it. You mentioned nitro, Kanney. Actually, we got a question from Zach Huberty. He was wondering, he's like, he really digs on your handguards, but he kind of wanted to know if you guys had anything else in the works and what was going to be kind of coming forward with that.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff in the works. You know, we've been sort of a business in the books for a couple of years, but it took so much out of us just to get that handguard out because we didn't want to make just another generic handguard that was really only designed around universal fit and aesthetics. You know, we put so much effort into you know, developing it to be durable and work well, that all of a sudden it took us over a year just to get it out. And now that that's out, now we're looking back at all the other ideas we had, and the first thing that we need to do is a bark buster, because there is such a massive demand from people that have no intention of ever getting rid of bark busters.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got friends of mine that will not run without bark busters, and I've got friends of mine that will not run with a bark buster because the guys who won't run with a bark buster are the guys that have, you know, crashed and like broken their wrists. And I'm not one of those people. I've always run bark busters mainly because my dad said I needed to, and then now that I have started, you know, now that I race, I have definitely smashed every living shit out of trees with those things, and I was like, well, that was not my knuckles, and I am very happy that that was not my knuckles. So yeah, I personally, I would agree. I would like, if you're gonna have handguards, you should probably have, you know, some form of bark buster in the off-road scene. Now, obviously, if you're gonna start putting them on, let's say, like, what was Zach Osborne running? Was he running yours?
He wasn't running my handguards. I'm not sure if he ran any at all, actually.
He wore something today. He didn't have any on in practice, but he was running something today. But it was actually fairly muddy, so a lot of the rust that was coming up and stuff, it was covering him pretty good. So
yeah, you know, speaking of Osborne, I talked to somebody yesterday, and I had heard that that he was maybe going to not be allowed to ride the XC2 class because it says in the rule book that if you have a pro license and motocross and supercross that you're not allowed to ride XC2. And I'd heard that he might not have been able to ride it. So then when today came around and the race got underway and I saw that he was in fact in the XC2 class, I you know, I was a little shocked, you know, because essentially what that means is that none of the XC2 teams followed through to try to enforce putting him in XC1. And, you know, it's a bold move if you take, you know, I guess Jason, who's in charge of Keith's team, and then you take Fred Andrews and, you know, whoever else is in charge of an XC2 effort, and, you know, you consider that they're letting a guy who's, you know, arguably a ringer in the class ride the class against the rules. It's a bold move. And, you know, I guess it worked out essentially to be like a null point because Andrew won and Jason Thomas got second. But if Osborne had been more used to the 3 hours and he had beaten Jason Thomas, Fred Andrews would have essentially put a spacer between Andrew and Thomas and started him off with an extra couple points for the season. Yeah,
it's actually a really good point because of the fact that, you know, in the long run, he's not going to be at every GNCC. But as you said, if he would have gotten in between DeLong, who was rides for Fred Andrews in first place, and then Jason Thomas in second, and he would have been in third, then he would have taken the 2 points away that wouldn't have been there. So that's an interesting point. I guess then they don't like the XC2 class in your eyes is not considered a pro class where they race the smaller bikes.
I think it is considered a pro class, but it's designed to. I think it's designed to suit the manufacturers that are in it. and I may be
The
wrong.
rules change every year too. It's like
do they?
whatever rules need to be changed or modified to.
Yeah, what
work
he's
for
saying
the
is
masses,
true.
But yeah, I
The
didn't realize.
the rules are changed every year to adapt to whatever team or brand has a new demand. And in this case, this year they changed the rules to allow Grant Baylor into the class.
And they did the year before for DeLong and
yeah, so it's like it's an ongoing thing where they sort of, I think they bend the rules here and there to make sure that it's that all the teams are satisfied, and of course when one's happy the other one's not, but it's sort of been an ongoing trend where we see that they are able to sort of do what they want and cater to people when they have to.
Right. Okay. Well, it sounds like you guys both kind of agree that might not be the right way to do it. So Keith, then what would do you have any, I mean, running now an only XC2 team, is there anything that you see that they have changed that may not work in your favor, or is there something that, that you would?
Well, I kind of echo what Nate's saying.
Okay.
In that, 5-10 years ago, whatever it was, I mean, when you went to the front row, that was a front row.
Right.
There were 20-25 guys that were freight training through the woods that could go the speed, and it was interesting to see who was going to win. Somebody picks a bad line, somebody gets aggressive to get around somebody, and they go down. I mean, it changes the whole dynamic of the race when you have those two classes, and you have top 4 guys in XC2, top 5 guys that can run up into XC1, and it seems like it happens at a lot of the races. The trails broke in to a degree when XC2 takes off, and they run up into the overall in the first lap, pretty high up.
Right.
Then it shakes out on the second lap, but still, it's I think they need to just put it all together and line them up and go racing. But
I agree. I think it's sort of a shame because, there's a handful of guys who I think are just doing themselves an injustice by starting on the second row. And, Andrew DeLong is like a great example of somebody who's he's doing great every time he races. But like today, for example, he was 5th overall, but he got a bad start on the second row. So he had to come through his entire own row before he worked through the next row. Granted, working through the XC1 class isn't very difficult anymore because there's only 15 guys, and that's 15 in Florida. There will probably be 10 in Georgia and 8 on average, so it's not going to be a lot. But if you take a guy like him and you put him in a freight train with Caleb Russell and Charlie Mullins, he's probably not going to fall off.
Right.
But given the fact that he never started with it, it's like he's working against his own odds. So.
And imagine what he could do with a motorcycle that had 310 cc's versus 250.
Absolutely. So you take an Andrew DeLong and you put him on a better bike. You take Jason Thomas, and now he's a guy who's not really got a whole lot behind him, and he's basically doing as good as he is because he believes in himself and he's working hard for it. And you put him there as well, and then you take a Zach Osborne, who knows what he's even capable of, and then even Jed Haynes, he's another good example because he spent a couple of years pole shotting every race in XC1 and fighting the arm pump as long as he could, and he got to the point where he was a contender against even me and other top guys at the National Hare Scrambles, but he never sort of broke the ice in XC1 into GNCC before he moved back to XC2. And now he's getting the results. He's getting some top 10s, but he's another guy who arguably should be running XC1 and should be getting himself that start and should be putting himself in the mix. And, it's just there's a handful of the guys, and if they all put themselves in a position where they put themselves in the front row and they go back to the roots and they take a look at themselves in the mirror in the morning and they see a man, and then they go to the start line and they do their best, then all of a sudden you got some pretty exciting racing going on.
Huh. Well, yeah, it's interesting hearing you guys talk about this. Been riding motorcycles my entire life and racing, mainly enduros. So following the GNCCs a little bit as I was growing up because my dad didn't really, I guess we didn't ever head east. So hearing a little bit that I was able to hear about it and the riders I was able to follow, kind of like the Scott Summers, some of the, the Randy Smiths or Rodney Smiths and stuff like that. So it's interesting now to kind of be involved for like the past 2 or 3 years and kind of hear you guys now talk about how the XC2 class is not what some people like myself would believe. And I know that a lot of people would have different opinions and different sides, and it sounds like it would be one hell of a discussion to have with some people that might have obviously opinions the other way that are gonna, but maybe that would just be.
I think that right now, I mean, a good example of somebody who would really have a strong opinion, one way, contrary to what I think, is somebody from Husqvarna, because they built their whole program around that class. So until they have a suitable bike for the XC1 class, they want the XC2 class there because they're investing in it.
Right.
But as soon as that brand, who's invested a lot of money into the series, has an offering for the XC1 class, they've already got the rider and Andrew DeLong. And I think as soon as they have a bike to put under him in that class, I think that we will see GNCC, advance their system, where I don't know if they'll get rid of XC2, but they might change the rules so that the majority of guys are actually in XC1 and XC2 goes back to being a sort of like purgatory class for the guys who aren't quite ready to make a big jump.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I know that talking to DeLong this past year in Germany at the ISDE, he was talking about riding a 310 and how much he loved that bike. It's just unfortunate because the 310 that he was able to ride in Germany wasn't the 310 that he had been testing, so the one that he had was nowhere near the same, and with all the adjustments that they had made, to personalize the 310 for him. So he loves that bike, and I think that it would be interesting now to, as you're saying it, once he could get on that thing and maybe kick some ass in the XC1 class, it'd be interesting to see what's going to be kind of, I guess as you're saying it, left of the XC2 and where it may move on. Before we kind of start talking about some of the racing that did happen this past weekend, I definitely have to big shout out to one of our partners. It's Fly Racing. Fly Racing is the title sponsor of Seat Time. They're one of the first guys that really they found us. They came to us and they were like, "We like what you're doing. We know you're having fun, and that's the core part of anything." I just as Keith said about early on, you have to be an enthusiast to be involved in the sport. Obviously, Steven is our producer. He's not just here because of the fact that he thinks I'm sexy and just because he likes talking about motorcycles. He likes just talking about motorcycles. He doesn't think I'm sexy at all. But when I wear Fly Racing stuff, he thinks I'm extremely sexy. And that's the way it should be, right? Yeah, Steven, you know what's up. But so they've done a lot to help us and kind of to help Seat Time become a little bit more from what it was, I guess, when we were just sitting on the couch, two guys and drinking beer. Oh, wait. We haven't really evolved very much, have we? So flyracing.com is where you can check them out. You can go to your local dealer, ask to see any of their new 2013 Fly. Oh, was that a hand? Was that a hand, Keith? All right. Yeah. So, see, you know what's going on with Fly. Tell me about your best Fly racing experience.
Oh, my goodness.
And not just about the boxers they wear.
Yeah, they help the team, okay? They help the team a lot. And beside that, they've done a lot for the sport.
I agree. They're like the biggest off-road supporter.
They are, and it's interesting. I feel like they really snuck up out of nowhere and really put some Fly gear out there, and it's amazing to see how popular it is. But the gear fits. We've converted people from other brands just for the fitment. If you're bigger than the average waist like I am, then you can appreciate a little more room and some riding gear. So
yeah.
Are you selling Fly gear in your shop?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
I've heard of a handful of shops that sponsor teams, and their teams are sponsored by Fly, but then the shops don't actually sell it, and it's kind of ironic, but it's good to see. I like to see it.
Oh yeah, we do absolutely. It's part of the deal. I mean, it's part of. When you're in a town of 12,000 people, and you're capable of being, in the top two for Yamaha in the state of Indiana on retail sales, and you're only in 12,000 people, and you're, bumping up against big metro areas. When you build your own brand, people come and they see what you're doing. They want to be a part of what you're doing. And when Fly got involved with us, we had a little bit of it in, and we kind of went in whole hog, and they make good stuff, and it does sell well. we've carried all the brands, so it's been good for us.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm really excited because of the fact that the 2013 spring line was announced about a month ago. Everything looks fantastic. I think it's amazing looking stuff. I know that I'm looking forward to being able to get my first set of that new mesh gear in with all the lighting and stuff. It looks so cool. I think I'm gonna look much more fantastic than I do right now, alone on the couch with my little four-wheeler here, my son's four-wheeler. I can't. He's not old enough to be on the show yet, and not just because he's not old enough to have beer. He's just not old enough to sit upright and not bitch the whole time. So, I mean, I say bitch, but he's a baby. I mean, he's 7 months old, so I mean, he can only do so much, But so Fly Racing, thank you very, very much for their support. We would definitely love it if anybody is watching the show and listens to us on either iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube, that you could go check them out at flyracing.com. Okay, well, we have been talking about GNCC, and I see no reason to stop. That is a very, very hot topic because holy shit. We had the 2013 season open this past weekend. We had the ATVs on Sunday, and then we had the bikes on Tuesday, which, hello, today's Tuesday because we're live on Seat Time. I'm pretty excited about the racing that went down today for a couple reasons. One is I was able to pretend that I was working and watch the GNCC racing. I honestly think that that's probably the number one thing that I really enjoyed. It seemed like they had a couple growing pains going on with the servers going down. But honestly, what they're trying to do and trying to pretty much have the best off-road series, along with offering, the live webcast, you're going to have growing pains like that. So I say great job. It was awesome. Were you guys, either one of y'all, able to, it sounded like, Kanney, that you were able to skirt work a little bit and watch it. But Keith, were you able to watch some of the live racing today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to watch some of it. I got pulled away a few times and then, circled back around. But it was... that was sweet. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Kanney, you didn't get in too much trouble from anybody there at your office?
No, I kind of make my own schedule, so...
yeah, I was about to ask, are you in your office technically?
Yeah, my bedroom doubles as my office, so yeah, I was...
I bet you some of the press releases...
I could have been in I could have been in sweatpants all day if I wanted to.
Nice. So some of the press releases that come out at 2 a.m. on a Saturday evening could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wanted to be there and watch the race. I knew we were going to be talking about it tonight, and it's like, why go on a show and then not know what you're talking about? And not only that, but I have a lot of Nitro's marketing and advertising invested in some of our riders who are doing that series. So. Of course, those are riders we sponsor, but they're also my friends. And not only that, but I've got a lot of respect for all the guys racing that series. And, I may not be racing it anymore, but I'm pretty interested in seeing how all the guys are doing and watching them ride and judging their performance and sort of picking up on little details here and there. And, I'm a fan. It's not like I'm sitting here retired from racing and bitter. I'm certainly a fan of all those guys. And, all the guys that I had my biggest battles with, it's not like I have to give a crap anymore. I can be pumped to watch them race just like I am to see my closest friends too, So
yeah.
It was interesting for me to watch it.
I like it. Were there any moments when you were watching it today where you just absolutely caught yourself in the attack position, feeling like you were going to the woods trying to oh, I should have taken that line? Were you oh, you idiot, you could have gotten him here?
I definitely saw, it wasn't quite like that, but I definitely watched stuff, and it was I'd see Caleb Russell take one line and Paul Woodley take another, and it was I knew Paul knew about the line because he probably spent 30 minutes walking on it the day before.
Right.
And, I knew whatever line Caleb took was probably because whoever was there from KTM, was probably a sort of a cautious guy, and pointed him to take the safe line and not take the risky one. And, it's like I'm watching this stuff, and, of course, you got that margin of doubt where, you still think that you can win, and you're like, oh, if I were there, I would have known what to do, and I would have gone faster, and I would have, but, it's sort of human nature that you just look at that stuff and you think you can do better, and especially when you're watching on TV. But in reality, I sort of know better, and I had all my chances, so I'm pretty okay with everything.
Yeah. So if we were to do they do the SX on speed hashtag and people post pictures and stuff, if you'd had a GNCC live picture, would you have been in your gear today? Like just full bore, like.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Oh,
if I would have been in any, if you're gonna catch me in any gear whatsoever, it'll be bicycle gear.
Oh, spandex, huh? That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know a dirt bike anymore. So part of what I'm doing now is it's like, you know, I know if I put the effort into my job now that I put into racing, that I'll be successful in it. And part of working that hard at it is not having a dirt bike trying to lure me away at 3 o'clock every afternoon. So, you know, I don't think I'm going to have a dirt bike at all this year. And once I get things rolling, I'll probably get a bike and sort of casually get back into it the following year.
I think that you are much more intelligent than some people might give you credit for, because that is entirely too smart, and I don't want to have to listen to your logic anymore. It's ridiculous. So one of the things that was awesome about the racing that happened today was we got to see Mullins come back and not only have a healthy race, but he also got to have a mechanical free race. He was kind of plagued last year, which was, you know, him trying to come back and win another XC1 title in 2011 like he did, or 2012 like he did in 2011. And he rode a phenomenal race coming out. Whibley got the whole shot, which that's what they had 13 races last year, so that's got to be 14 in a row now that he's gotten the whole shot in the XC1 class. But then Josh Strang being right up there with him, and then Caleb Russell coming out of nowhere really fast and getting up there, challenging Mullins once he got around Wibbs. I mean, we had, I thought, you know, just from watching it online, an absolutely awesome battle that was going on in the XC1 class. You know, between, say, the top 5 guys going back and forth so much. I mean, you guys kind of, anything that you took away from, you know, from the XC1 race today?
Well, I was pretty impressed that that Lafferty was up there right out of the gate.
Dude, yeah. Enduro champion 9 times.
Yeah. Of course, you know, he's ridden the sand a lot for the Alligator, but yeah, it was cool to see him up there. I think Paul had an issue there and dropped back to 5th. But yeah, coming out of the gate, Strang, I thought that was cool that he was doing as well as he was doing. Really didn't know if he would make that speed for the whole race, but obviously he better shape for that kind of racing than I've given him credit for, I guess.
Yeah, I think than a lot of people had given him credit for. It sounded like a lot of people were wondering if he could kind of come back into like 3 hours worth of racing.
Right.
I didn't really have any doubt about Strang doing the 3 hours. What I had more doubt was whether or not he was going to have the outright speed, because I know Strang's a very modern trainer. You know, he's very, you know, self-motivated and smart about his training. He's doing a lot of cycling and he's going to the gym every day. He's not scared to work hard. So I wasn't concerned about, I didn't have any doubt about him like being there, but I had questions about whether or not Strang would just come out of the gate and have the speed right away, or sort of where he would pick up, because there's a lot of question marks with him. I mean, when he left GNCC on top, he was riding the bike that was tailor-made to him, and it was arguably, you know, one of the best 450s for a pro to use. So you know, there's that. And then last year he came back and he really sort of struggled to be on pace when he was on the diesel model KTM.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean the carbureted old style 450. But you know, so there's a lot of doubts. I know the Cowie is really good, and I just didn't, you know, he had a preseason race a couple weeks ago and he was a few minutes behind Paul, and you know, there was doubts about that, but you know, he's certainly fit, and that was not anything that I had doubts in. But you know, I was actually, Keith said he was surprised to see, and Bochi said he was surprised to see Lafferty up front. I was surprised when he suddenly wasn't up front, actually, you know, because I've trained a lot with Lafferty. I've spent probably 2 full winters living with him and training with him every day. And I think that I admire him more than maybe anybody else racing off-road in the country.
Really?
He is an old-fashioned, no bullshit, brass tacks, work hard every day and leave nothing undone, you know. And he's fast as shit, and he's getting better with age. And you know, when you see him at the front of a race, that's when you know he's business. And for him to sort of fall out of that lead and fall back, that was more of a shocker to me than anything.
Yeah, and it seemed like he unfortunately had a mechanical. I know that when I was listening to the webcast, that Stuart Baylor ran over there and was talking to him, trying to figure out what it was that was going on. He did have some form of mechanical, and it's unfortunate because, like you said, I mean, he was up there running awesome. I mean, he may have just wanted to go out there for a couple laps anyway to kind of get some sand test in. But the way you put it, Nate, I honestly doubt that. It sounds like when he goes out to give it any kind of percent, it's 100% or nothing. So.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, he knows that he's running out of time in his career, and he's certainly the kind of guy who wants to make the years that he has left racing count. So there's no doubt in my mind that if he goes through the effort to put himself at the start line of a race, he's taking it seriously. And I know how much he likes those new Husabergs. Like I said, I don't think there's anybody I really admire more in the racing world than him. And, you know, I wasn't shocked at all to see him leading, but for him to suddenly not be there, that was sort of what was.
Yeah. And actually, it's weird enough because I do have it in my notes. He ripped off his shifter. So you can't shift a motorcycle. You're going to have to rev the shit out of it or lug the crap out of it. And sometimes that just doesn't work well. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think didn't Russell Bobbitt have a problem too? They said he was pushing his bike back.
Yeah, he went down in the first. He went down in the first turn, and his Barkbuster kind of, or his Handguard or Barkbuster, whichever he was running, kind of wore on his front brake lever, and so he couldn't tell that was the case at first. So he was going. He's like, "Man, what's going on with my bike? Why does it feel like it's lugging so much?" And it's just because his front brake was pretty much activated the whole time, and they thought it was because it was a warped rotor. And so when he pulled in, and he had another wreck because of that, and then. That was when they figured it out. But, yeah, it was unfortunate to see him go down, too.
So, essentially, KTM got off pretty clear today, given that that Mike and Russell's bikes are actually labeled as Husabergs because now, officially, this is probably the first year in I don't know how many years that KTM, the official KTM team, has gotten through round one without a mechanical failure. And, I don't know. I think every year I ever raced Florida, I had mechanicals with KTM. You know, I finished, but I had to stop and put whole new rear brakes in, and I put a connecting rod through the engine case one year. And,
holy shit! And now it seems that it would be a European manufacturing thing, but at the same time, you know, KTM's really been pushing a lot of the limits in the past couple of years, like trying to make, like say, like the Dungey bike and then making the 350. And the two-strokes, I think, are always kind of evolving. They're always getting a little bit nicer. So, I mean, they're always making changes. You know, is that a problem? Or is it, you know, still more of like a European manufacturing? They just don't have the consistency that the Japanese do for whatever that is.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, you know, the 1 year... you know, I'll tell you from my personal experience first and an opinion after that. But, you know, first, you know, I broke a crank. And when I had to push the bike back, they first told me that it was my fault because I'm the only one on the team that revs the bike up that much. But then, you know, my mechanic felt bad. And a couple days later, he told me, you know, not to feel bad, that there was a whole production run of defective rods, you know. And, so as it turns out, they had to narrow down the production run numbers on a certain batch and get them out of the stock, you know. And so then there was that, and the next year I think I broke the rear brake system failed, but that was just something like the sand got in the master cylinder, and you know, like, it happens in Florida. It could happen on any bike. So there's that. But then another year. Caleb Russell, the first year with fuel injection, his fuel injection failed. And that year it was like KTM had this brand new fuel injection and they had a lot of problems with it, and I don't know why, but you know, it was like that year they had a lot of those problems, and now you never see Caleb or Charlie have fuel injection problems anymore. But I guess it's like, you know, probably 50-50, you know, they're pushing the limit with the technology on one hand, but on the other hand, they're still trying to improve the quality control in their manufacturing.
All right. Well, Keith, you know, the team you run, there's all, and the shop that you own, all is, you know, Japanese manufacturers. So if there was one, you know, bit of advice that you have, you know, say you got to talk to the whoever you think you should talk to at KTM about getting their shit together. Obviously, that's maybe not what they really need to do, but, you know, to maybe, you know, try to, whatever it is with their mechanicals, what would you think it is?
Oh, I don't know. You know, it's interesting to see some of the things that go on that are kind of freakish. I know that you know, Charlie took the Dungey bike to the Enduro series, and you know, he had issue after issue.
He mangled that thing.
Yeah, well, you know, they went into the van and did a motor swap between test and an Enduro. He kept kicking the oil filler cap off. And tearing out clutches and everything else. Later in the year, I talked to him. I was like, "What's the deal? What'd you do to get it dialed in?" And he basically said, "We went back to, you know, stock horsepower. You know, they pumped the motor up so much that, you know, he couldn't keep a clutch in it, and you know, basically it was just self-destructing." So I don't know. It's when you buy into, you know, the four strokes that Yamaha, as an example, make. I mean, they've been tough. You know, our 250F's really refined. Yeah, it's not the latest on its fuel handling characteristics, but it works good. It's a good machine, and I don't know. You know, it's just building it for the masses is a little different than being a specialty company that makes, you know, 32 different off-road models or whatever they make.
Right.
You know, I don't know that they get as honed in.
To be fair, I mean, Charlie is probably the hardest guy there is on bikes, and
that's a good reason to
break any bike he rode.
Well, you know, he really didn't have that issue in 2010 riding a non-current Yamaha. So, I don't know.
Didn't he have a lot of mechanicals on when he was on your bike as well? I know he won the Enduro championship.
Yeah, and GNCCs as well. No, we had a mechanical at the end of the year. So did Strang, and that was when it was powdery dusty at Ironman.
Right.
Sucked air through the intake, or through the air filter. Broke a clutch, perch, or something at the Alligator, or at one of the Florida rounds in the National Enduro Series. No, I mean, as far as Charlie went, you know, when I first talked to Charlie in late 2009 about doing 2010, and you know, he'd gotten 10 Suzukis for his 2009 year, and I told him right away that, you know, I'm the wrong guy to talk to then, because 10 motorcycles, you know, it just isn't going to happen. And if I'm not mistaken, he made it through the whole year. I think he used 3 motorcycles, and one of them he had set back that was basically, he just got it out of service for the last 2 GNCCs just because. But no, actually no. He was extremely hard on calipers. I've never seen anybody spread calipers and be so hard on the braking system. But you know, you go to the Jack Pine Enduro, it's tight. He says he's running it wide open in first gear, and I think he just puts on the brake the whole time. He just lets off and propel himself. It's what I think, but you know, it's just insane.
So it's just the opposite of a trials rider where they're all clutch. This guy's all brake except for throttle.
Oh man, yeah, I don't get it. You know, and these guys at Kanney, you're probably saying, well, you don't cut your handlebars down. Mine are like a tiller motor. You know, mine are 28 inches. I don't want to hit any trees, but for whatever reason, these fast guys run their bars wide.
Well, I could definitely speak to that, because my dad, we grew up in southern Louisiana with those tight ass pine trees, and those things we cut our shit down to like 29 and a half, so that we'd be like 30 full on with our bark busters. And then I moved to Texas, and you didn't need shit like that. And so it was like I slowly started doing a little bit more West Coast or West Texas enduros, and then now, yeah, they're completely uncut. And now I can go to like Cycle Land and Nacogdoches, and I can ride there in the tight woods for whatever reason in 32-inch bars. But, you know, for when I growing up in Louisiana, it was cut them. All right, Dad, get the hacksaw.
The last time I cut my bars, I think I got to the first. I did. It was the first year I was traveling around doing all the nationals. And I did the Florida round, and I was like, did good, and I was all pumped. It's like, all right, I got to be ready for Georgia. It's gonna be tight as shit there. And I cut my bars down, and I think I cut a half-inch off each side. And I was like 2 miles into the race when I realized how much that did not work for me. And I dealt with it the whole race, and I never thought about touching my bars. No, you know what? I caught them once again. I did the alligator enduro, or not the alligator, the Cherokee. The first year I was with KTM, I did the Cherokee enduro, and I was staying with Russell Bobbitt and hanging out with Mike Lafferty a lot, and all they talked about was how that race was so freaking tight, and it was like, you know, it was like a ghost story the way they talked about it. You know, it was like so tight that you couldn't imagine it. You know, it was like you're gonna get claustrophobia in the trails.
You know, they probably did that to you on purpose just to fuck with you.
Yeah, they definitely were, because they hated the fact that I was like not normal with bark busters and everything. So anyway, the day before the race, I cut my bars enough so that I could put bark busters on, and they wouldn't be any wider than the normal bar would have been.
Right.
And I rode really well that way, but you know, I just wasn't comfortable with it.
Well, I try to be as comfortable as possible in most situations, so I think that should make you happy. You do whatever you want, Mr. Kanney, because I know you will anyway.
Well,
okay.
Now, from now on, I can actually go to even wider than standard width bars.
You're like,
now I don't have to worry about performance at all. So
yeah,
so we're in good.
You're like, you're duct taping extra length.
I think Chris Bach told me that he got a custom set of bars from Flex Bars that were wider than normal. I think a couple of years ago he might have run them on his regular race bike.
I just want to give a heads up to your either girlfriend or wife who's in the background, as long as she doesn't start changing, because you can see her in the mirror. So I just because I'm a nice guy, I just want to give a heads up on that one.
That was part of it. That was part of the show, and you just ruined it.
Oh, what?
Well, you're gonna do that on purpose. Took all the fun out of it.
Well, you could. I mean, if she was gonna strip for you and just try to keep you straight faced, or maybe not straight faced, you know, that's fine. I would have liked to have been known, so I could have just not said a thing and watched as well.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, it was actually all part of an act where she wanted to act like she didn't mean it.
Yeah, she's like, hey, I think Brian's gonna enjoy this. Now it might be creepy, but I'm okay with creepy, so it's fine. All right, so GNCC results for the XC1 class. If we look at all of it, we got Charlie Mullins in first, Caleb Russell in second, Josh Strang in third, Paul Whibley in fourth, and then Thad Duvall in fifth. I think these are the guys that we're gonna see, you know, battling it out all year. These are the ones that we saw besides Strang. Obviously, they were giving it all last year. Mullins, when he didn't have either pains or mechanicals. Duvall did get a win last year. I think some of that consistency is going to come through this year. You know, so who are some other riders in the XC1 class that you guys think that are, you know, going to be able to pop into the top five and really kind of maybe start contesting that they weren't in the top five today?
I think Rory Mead will be a big one.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what happened to him today. I sent him a message, but
yeah, he was just on the side of the track at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, I didn't see it. I mean, I had trouble with the live feed. It wasn't really very good. It sort of seemed like, you know, there was more southern drawl from Rodney and Stu than actual video coverage. But
hey,
I'm not sure what happened to him. I didn't see him on the side of the track, but I heard that he only got 2 laps in, and you know, I don't know what it is, but I do think that he's going to be a contender at all the races going forward.
Cool. What about you, Keith?
Well, I'd like to think that Ashburn has more to offer than what he put on the table today.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I really think you're right there.
You know, from what I understand, he's been racing all winter long. He's been doing the Mid-South Series. In fact, he won the championship in that. You know, from what I'm hearing, he's doing quite a bit of CrossFit, doing a little more to get in shape. You know, what I got to talk to Randy after the race today. Talked like he might have had a little bit of a flu bug, but you know, I think Ashburn certainly has all the talent in the world. It's going to take him harnessing all of his all the desire he can muster to get up there and do it, because I think he's got the talent, he's got the speed. If he can get his conditioning, if his conditioning's where it should be, I think we may see something out of it before it's over.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Stuart Baylor Jr.? I mean, obviously he's out with a wrist injury. He's probably going to be out. You know, it seems like a majority of the year, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, you know, do you guys think he's going to have much for these guys?
If he'll take the time to heal,
yeah.
You know, I think that's probably the biggest thing is you know, he came back and tried to race the Cherokee, and probably too soon. Obviously too soon. Had to go back in another surgery. If he can get healed up and he doesn't have too many pains, yeah, I think he's got something. But you know, by the time he's healed up, it looks like Grant's going to be
his younger brother's going to be kicking some ass.
Yeah, he's on it too.
Didn't they say on the show today that Stu's got to sit out like half the season?
Yeah, he's going to be out like a majority of the year.
Already had a lot of complications with it over the off season. I mean, I think it's as far as he's concerned, I think it's more a matter of is he going to be able to return to being competitive at all? Not a matter of if he can run for wins.
Yeah, no, right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and you know, talking just friends in the industry and talking around, you know, it's definitely an injury he needs to take serious. You know, Rick Johnson comes to mind when you think about people who you know, didn't get a wrist injury healed up right. Basically, they were done. So,
yeah.
You know, Stu's got the talent, got the speed. You know, he just needs to get healthy. You know, if he can come back from this, then yeah, like Nate's saying, I think he'll do fine. But there again, he's got to come back from it.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing how how everything comes this coming weekend in Georgia for the XC1 guys. Now, if we go XC2, we had Andrew DeLong was in first place, Jason Thomas in second, and then we had Zach Osborne, you know, the Supercross, motocross guy, the real 338, if you will, in third place, Jed Haynes in fourth, and then we had Grant Baylor in fifth. So top five for one of your boys, Keith, which is awesome to see. And then we had, I think Andrew DeLong was actually fifth overall, first in the class, which is, you know, kind of the point you guys were making a little bit earlier, that it seems that some of these guys really can, if they were to be able to start in the first line, would really be able to contest in the top five, starting from the first line and maybe even further up. Jason Thomas, it seemed like with Andrew DeLong going down in the first turn, came from like second to last, if not last. To catch up to these guys and pass. I noticed a couple times he was taking the hot lines, like you were talking about, like say maybe KTM might be pointing some people towards a little bit safer lines, or but every time you saw Andrew DeLong making up time, he was just blowing through those nasty mud holes, going over the crazy ass log sections, just trying to make up anytime he could, and obviously it paid off. I mean, he was just booking it. So. But so Zach Osborne, though, we were talking a little bit about him. You know, he had a phenomenal 2.5 hours of racing, and then it did seem that he kind of fell off the pace. This is kind of, I believe he was doing this for fun. I mean, we know he was doing it for fun, but it sounds like this is close to very local for him. So he's able to kind of just come out and play around, wake up from his own bed, and just go out and have fun. He did the J Day and did really well out there. And then coming out here and doing this guy, I mean, that was cool to see him out here. I mean, do you?
Well, I mean, Osborne, if you look at what he had going on the last lap, he pulled a faster lap on the last lap than Duvall. So I mean, he didn't fade too terribly much. But,
yeah.
Man, DeLong, going back to him. I asked Jed today. I said, "Well, you know, what happened when how'd DeLong get by you?" Because Jed had a horrible start too, not as bad as Andrew, but yeah, he said he was definitely getting some hot lines and passing lots of people in one pass. You know, getting a lot of riders out of the way. So,
right.
That guy's on it.
All right. So again, same kind of question. Top five, you know, who are some guys that you think that we're going to see? I mean, Zach Osborne kind of got in there, got some points between Thomas and Haynes, but say going forward in Georgia this coming weekend, you know, who do you think is going to be somebody coming up there to bust in the top five, if not maybe challenge for a win?
I would say all of Keith's guys, the regulars, and one other guy, my teammate from last year, Scotty Grills.
Yeah,
I
Grilson's
think
a
he'll.
good rider.
I think he'll be a. I don't know what he did today. I know he probably didn't do anything that he's happy about, but he's a hot-blooded kid and he's really tenacious. And I think that I won't be surprised at all if he's got some shocker podiums.
Awesome.
He ended up, looks like he ended up 27th overall and 16th in class. But, you know, it just seems like Florida's such a, had a guy tell me it was a sucker punch race. It's just so different than everything else you run. That
It's such an ass beating.
you can certainly screw a championship run up at Florida, but, you know, I don't necessarily know that you're going to, you know, come away there, you know, with exactly what it takes to win the championship. When you do the statistics on the number of people that have won River Ranch or the first round that come back to win the championship, it's not very many. So I don't know. You know, it's just kind of gets kind of shook up a little bit at the first race. But you know, if you can come out of Florida with good confidence, I think that's probably more important than a lot of things for a rider.
Yeah, I think Caleb Russell is somebody. I think of when you're saying what you were just saying, because you know he wasn't he DNF last year, and that pretty much cost him the championship. You know, a lot of people are saying, now obviously you got to finish to finish first, kind of a situation, but he came away with a hell of a lot more confidence at the end of this, you know, Florida race than he did out of last year's. So I think that bodes well, and KTM might see an interesting title competition come later on in the year if obviously one race down, if they stay consistent. So it could be interesting. Speaking about the women, we see Maria Forsberg kind of dominate in the women's class in the 2-hour race the past couple years, and this year she didn't get the win right off the bat. Casey Martinez, a motocross racer, kind of came in from the West Coast and got the win. I really think that's good. I think that, you know, it sounds like Jessica Patterson and Casey Martinez coming over. Ashley Copeland was there. She got third. She finished fourth overall last year in the women's class. It's cool to see a lot, you know, that class kind of growing. I guess, you know, they don't run the three-hour program just because 3 hours is a hell of a lot of racing. But you know, it's hard for anybody that's out there. I think it'd be hard for my ass just to do the damn 2-hour program, let alone do 3 hours. But so you guys think
I could do 3 hours if we took an hour break in the middle.
Hell yeah! So technically 4, or like just
no, I could do the whole 3 hours if I got to take a break for the second hour.
I would prefer to say screw it and just do 2 hours regardless, straight, and then just have beer afterwards. And if they're still racing for another hour, they can have it.
You know, on the women's class, Brian, I just you know, we got involved in that a few years back. It's kind of cool that it is a morning race because it's pretty neat when you go to the line and you see the women's class and the umbrellas and the people holding them, and it's quite the show. And I think a lot of people really enjoy watching it in the morning. I think it's probably one of the funner classes to watch in the morning. I know everybody likes to watch the sportsman's class, but race in, race out, the women really do put on a good show.
Right.
And they're fast, and they got a lot of heart to get out there and do that. Some of them don't weigh 115, 20 pounds, and the bike's twice their weight. So anyway, it's kind of neat to see. We've been doing it for three years now, supporting somebody in the women's class every year, and for us, we think it's worthwhile. Nice.
Well, we've got the General coming up this coming weekend in Georgia. Was it Washington, Georgia? And we're gonna see if what people did today is consistent, and they're gonna be able to come away with that after this coming weekend. And then a little bit of a break to go to the third round, but I think it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I know that they're gonna have some kinks worked out in the webcast. I'm gonna be able to watch that hopefully and a little bit better. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that. So I just want to say thank you to one of our other sponsors of Seat Time. I have to say thank you very much to Squarespace. For those of you who have absolutely no idea what Squarespace is, Squarespace is the place that you should go check out. It's squarespace.com/seattime if you were to want to have any form of an exceptional/professional looking website. you can go to Squarespace and you can sign up. And you can sign up for free to get a trial period, no credit card, anything like that going. And obviously, if you use the discount code SeatTime1, not only are you supporting Seat Time, but you're also saving yourself 10%. So they, are advertising on Seat Time, but we say thank you very much to them for that. So one of the things, though, that's so cool about Squarespace is that you can kind of go there. You can get your own name. You can get your own domain name, have your own website that's branded to yourself. The very, very, very clean-looking templates. They're very responsive, so if anybody notices, I want to be on this kind of device, it's going to respond to the kind of device you're on, and as well the content that you're going to upload. They just came across with a new e-commerce platform, which is awesome, because if you're like, maybe you're selling some stuff out of your house, and you want to be like, I'm going to have my professional motorcycle website, and then I'm going to sell some of the stuff on the side. Boom. There's a really easy way to do it. You can knock out two birds with one stone. And you get all control over your content, what everything's going to look like. I think that for all the riders that we have, everybody, for being a developer, a lot of people have always called me, I need a website. I need to put this up. Oh, I've got this with these race results. Well, the thing is with Squarespace, you can go do that all on your own. Go there, sign up, get your domain name, put all your content on there, pick something that you think looks awesome, and all of a sudden you have a very, very professional-looking website. So squarespace.com/seattime, discount code SeatTime1. Please support those that support Seat Time. Woo! Okay, so thank you very much, guys. So some of the other stuff that I wanted to talk about was, say, like the San Felipe 250 that happened this past weekend. As well, had a couple things that went on. So, like Tanner Thomas, a guy that actually had a good question for us about kind of bridging the gap between, say, some of the top 5 national enduro riders and some of the guys that are coming in that 6th through 11th place. He actually got an overall win this past weekend at his NEOC race. So, Kanney, when it comes to like national enduros, you said you have done a couple of them in the past. When you've noticed that you're having trouble trying to, catch up like speed-wise with some of the guys that are really like dominating that series, what are some of the things that you kind of changed up to try to compete more there?
The best piece of advice I could give any kid coming up is to disregard anything any trainer ever tells you. You get trainers and you get people that are always telling you not to overtrain and not to work too hard, and when you're at a level like what Tanner is, it's not a matter of your body being in peak condition. It's a matter of your mind being in peak condition. And if you go out and you know that what you did every single day was double what Mike Lafferty and Russell Bobbitt and every other guy did, at the end of the week, you start to really believe in yourself. And you say, if I could do that, I can do anything, man. This race is going to be easy now. And, maybe their body's pretty worn down. But mentally, that's when they start turning into a man and they look at themselves in the mirror and they know that they're putting in more work than everybody else, and they start to believe in themselves. So, by working hard, I mean covering all the bases. I mean doing a lot of motos, doing a lot of sprints, and by sprints, I mean taking your lap time and spending 2 hours trying to beat your lap time one lap at a time, and then not stopping there. You need to be doing, your cycling, plyometrics, circuit training, whatever it may be that you like. You need to cover all the bases and cover a wide spectrum of training aspects, and you need to do more of it so that you believe in yourself.
I think that's fair advice. I don't know that I have what it takes, but I'm sure that a guy like Tanner Thomas does. I want to drink too much beer, and I know that's a fault of my own, and that's fine.
I mean, okay. When I was Tanner, when I was essentially in Tanner's shoes, I can remember I moved up to the pro class in GNCCs, and Fred and Rodney and all those guys, they wouldn't even look at me long enough that they had to blink. Like they wouldn't give me any respect for anything, and it didn't matter how much better and better I got. I wouldn't get recognized by anybody for anything like that. The guys I was trying to race with wouldn't even acknowledge me as being a contender or anything. And the more they did that, the more it drove me. And, I was a kid, I didn't go to college, but I lived in a college town, and I like to go out and chase girls, and I like to go out and party with my friends and all that. But no matter what I did, I still got up early in the morning, and I went out and I trained by myself even, and I put a lot of effort into believing in myself, and you know, that's what it took. And I can tell you there was a lot of big crashes that I had, you know, because I was pushing myself for an extra second on a lap time. You know, and I'd have a big crash like that and be by myself. And you know, I'm not recommending that it's a good idea or anything, but if you want something bad enough that you're willing to work hard enough and sacrifice everything for it, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of time before you get it.
Yeah. Be the next Mike Lafferty. 9 Enduro championships from working his ass off and doing a lot of turn tracks.
Yeah. Michael Lafferty has been doing this for 20 years, and he never stopped working. He's been working that hard, like what I've talked about, every one of those years. You know, when the season's over, most riders take a break and then they come back to it fresh and remotivated. Mike's break is the one night that he goes out and parties at the end of the last race. And he's immediately that week, you know, testing all the new settings, picking out what bike he's going to be on, and back in the gym. You know, and that's why Mike's been relevant for so long.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, so the San Felipe 250 that took place this past weekend was a little bit of a controversy because of the fact that even though, say, Kurt Caselli and Ivan Ramirez actually came through first, they then, when the results came out, were penalized, as were Robbie Bell's team, the THR, Robbie Bell and David Patterson, and their third teammate. And apparently they were off course by more than 500 feet. Now, where it got a little weird is because that rule where you could not go off course by over 500 feet was not supposed to take place until the 1,000, the score 1,000, or the 500, I'm sorry. So the score 500, which is coming up later this year. So they all thought up until then they were given a riders meeting, you know, like last minute on a Thursday before the race. Hey, you know, we're going to go ahead and go with these new rules for the 250 as well, the 500. So even though they finished first, they didn't finish first. They finished second, the KTM team, and then, you know, Robbie Bell's team kind of got moved back even then further to fourth behind Kendall Norman's team, which he was on a privateer effort, which I think is pretty badass. But he's always done really well at those situations. So, Keith, have you ever done any kind of Baja riding that you could relate to something of what it must feel like to do 250 miles worth of riding, and then you're like, oh, my transponder said I was in a different split?
No, I've not done any of that. No, I mean, I can't imagine going that distance and not getting a result from the effort that was put into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think I'd be too happy about that. But you know, it's tough. You know, that's what the riders meeting's for. You know, if there's 500 feet, my goodness, I guess that's a whole lot different being in the open. But
yeah,
you know, back here in the East, racing the Enduro Series, I mean, I see trail that's within, 100 feet of one another. So, you can cut out a checkpoint pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, I've never done anything like that out west. So.
Yeah, it sounded like, too, like Robbie Bell had, if anybody hasn't heard about this, please go actually to his Facebook page and read all of his little blog posts that he wrote. Because he spells it out really as clearly as I think anybody has yet. And it just seemed like there was so much changing. They were like, okay, so we're going to go this way. No, we're going to go this way. No, we don't really know how it's going to be. Okay, it's going to go this way. And so they really just said, you know what? We pre-ran it this way. They were given a chance to go out and try to do some more pre-running to try to figure some of this out. But honestly, it just wasn't enough time, and so they made a team decision. You know what? We're going to go with what we originally pre-ran, and we're going to see how it goes. And unfortunately, they did go off the transponders, and the transponder showed them being that far off. But it just kind of sucks, like you guys were saying that maybe the XC2 class, they change the rules all the time. When you have these kind of like last-minute rule changes, it just totally jacks with a lot of the preparation that people have put in. Now, with more teams going south and spending more money to get down there, I think the consistency is what's going to be key to kind of keeping these teams spending the money and keep coming back to this kind of stuff.
It's sort of just a growing pain. I mean, it's just a matter of the organizers getting more organized and being more particular. And it's a shame that Robbie Bell and the KTM team got the penalty for their, lack of clarity. But, it's not like back here on the East Coast when somebody gets a penalty for cheating. It's like they sort of get a bad rap for it. But in this case, it sounds pretty clear that nobody had any ill will, trying to find a shortcut.
Yeah. And I think it's weird, too, because a lot of us, myself, I personally I've had to talk to Kurt Caselli multiple times to get him to understand a little bit of my ignorance toward desert racing. But it sounds like, that you just need to get from point A to point B, and however you can do that the fastest, that's what you're going to need to do. And, with these guys pre-running and they have 10,000 different lines all over the place, it's just whichever one they think is going to be the fastest one. And just unfortunately, one of the ones, or a couple of the ones that they chose, were just apparently more than 500 feet away from the actual trail. So that's pretty far. But I don't know. It's interesting. So we'll see how it's going to go forward. Toby Price, one of the guys that I got to meet at the ISDE, who we've talked with a couple episodes ago, did really, really well. They got 5th place with him and Mike Brown on the second KTM bike. So I'm looking forward to him doing a lot better, though. He's a phenomenal desert racer. So now that he's kind of been over here and done some stuff, I just want to see how that's going to go down. And then, of course, Nate, I just want to tell you that Kurt Caselli is going to be racing Dakar again in 2014. Does that not lighten your pants a little?
Yeah, I saw something today. 3 years, right?
Yeah, he's got like Cyril Despres, the five-time Dakar guy, is not going to be with KTM for the Dakar this coming year for 2014 Dakar, and so they're going to get Caselli to take his place.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool because, it's been a few years now that KTM's sort of been a ringer. Like it's almost a foregone conclusion that KTM's going to win that event. And now Husqvarna and Honda are getting more interested in Yamaha as well. So whichever team that Cyril Despres goes to, that'll be really neat to see another brand as a contender. And, of course, Kurt getting an opportunity to do such a huge event and bring attention to American off-road riders is really awesome. And, I think Kurt will do good. He'll naturally be one of the favorites going in.
Yeah. I mean, he won 2 stages in his first Dakar, earlier this year. And I don't think anybody expected that out of him. Honestly, it's such a different beast. He's obviously a great off-road rider and does fantastic in the Hare and Hounds and the Desert Series and stuff like that. But there's just so much more that goes into car that they say. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to learn my shit, get it figured out, and kick some ass. And that's what he's trying to figure out how to do. So I think it's going to be really cool. So, Keith,
Yeah.
Are you going to sponsor a Dakar team with your Yamahas?
Yeah, no. I'm gonna do that. No.
That's not gonna help out, unfortunately, in Indiana for you to sell bikes, is it?
No, probably not. No, that is a market that Yamaha's playing in the U.S. now, so that's kind of cool with some of their production bikes. So actually, it's one of the fastest growing markets in the U.S. is that whole adventure bike stuff.
The kind of the adventure / like travel bikes or whatever.
Yeah, with the the aluminum bags on the side of it, and all that's cool stuff. It's fun. It's like, you get on a road, you start riding, and you crest a hill, it turns to gravel, and you just start smiling. It's a pretty neat little segment.
So it's like dual sporting done cool.
Yeah, long distance stuff. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking for, they just KTM just announced that new 1190 there, that new kind of the 1190 adventure. My dad's got the 990 and he loves that thing, so I think the 1190 is going to be awesome. I would love to ride that bike, but I don't have $12,000. Can I borrow that from you, Kanney?
I don't have $12,000 either.
If I keep doing shows like this, I'm going to keep running out of money, so it's not the end of the world.
If I had $12,000, I would put it toward paying off my last year of racing.
One day, right?
Yeah.
One day you will pay it off. Okay, before we start wrapping this stuff up and everybody starts telling us where they can find out more about them, I do have to say thank you to our last sponsor of Seat Time. We have our 3 fantastic sponsors, and that's the way we like it. We like to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Fantastic partners. So Powersport Graphics, ridepg.com is where you can find them. The thing that's really cool is you can actually order your graphics before 11 a.m. on Eastern time, and you can get them next day. I think that's fantastic. That's the way you should do it. Now, if you're like on their website and you're like, "Oh, that looks really cool. I want to order this before 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I want to get it tomorrow and save 40%, then you just get the ready to ship option. Now, granted, you don't get to customize it with some of the fun logos and stuff like that, but you're saving 40%. So I think that in a market maybe such as people say the economy is right now, that could be an option for you as well. But if you don't want to save 40%, maybe you want to put your own custom graphics on there, there is a discount code that you can use to at least save 10%, and that is Seat Time. So that is the discount code Seat Time. So ridepg.com, go order some badass shit. Use the discount code Seat Time, and please support all the people that support us. We really appreciate them for their support. They're fantastic people. Now, Mr. Obermeyer, if you were to tell us about all these fun little social networks that you're on and people could find you to hit you up and tweet you real hard on Twitter, what would they be?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We're on Facebook.
You need
Obermeyer
flashcards.
Yeah. Twitter, I think, is Obermeyer Yamaha. We're pretty easy. Check us out, obyamaha.com.
I've heard that about you guys.
Yeah, we're easy. Yeah, exactly. So, we're not too hard to find.
All right, Nate, where the hell are you at on the internet?
I mean, I shouldn't even say where I'm at because I don't use it. I don't use it that much, but
whatever, dude. You retweeted me. That's cool. I liked it. It felt good.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm unreliable. I'm inconsistent on those things. So somebody might write me, and it might be like days before I get back.
But you're honest. You're.
That sounds like me.
Yeah.
I'm Nathan Kanney 116 on Twitter and Instagram, and I think my Facebook is just a / Nathan Kanney.
Nice. All right. Well, everybody.
More importantly, people can find me at ridenitro.com.
Boom.
And, new inventory of handguards in stock, and the Facebook / Ride Nitro.
Ride Nitro on Facebook. Whoo! Get me some handguards, bitches. I like it. I'm gonna order me a pair just so I can look really cool. Is that? Am I gonna get more out of it than just looking cool?
You're gonna get a lot of it. You're gonna probably at least get a couple handies.
Whoa! I'm not even gonna tell my wife. They're like, no.
Did you catch the pun in that?
Boy, did I. Handies, because they're handguards. Is it the guard of the hands and the handies? The guards of the handies. I don't know. I'm going weird places with this. It's okay. All right. So what you have been watching and listening to, if you're listening to it on Stitcher or iTunes, is Seat Time. So this is seattime.co is the website where you can find us. If you happen to be on Facebook, facebook.com/seattime. If you're on Twitter, it is at seattime_co. Of course, we're on Instagram, which is just regular old Seat Time because it's boring. And then, of course, seattime.bigcartel.com is where you can go find some merchandise, specifically these big-ass tall pint glasses that everybody should have. Right? Right.
That's right.
Appreciate you guys being on. We got started a little late. We ran a little long, but honestly, that sounds pretty normal these days. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, good thing, or just indifference, but I really appreciate you guys being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll do it again whenever you guys have more beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, take it in. Remember, Seat Time. Always enjoy a pint full of awesome.
Awesome.